that lets you save.
Your body is supposed to perspire. That's how you release toxins. It has a lot to do with our lymphatic system as well. But in that regard, our body is supposed to sweat. It's supposed to cool itself. So when we're cold, our body is supposed to heat itself.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of nationally syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
Hey, good morning. So today we're talking about cold water therapy. And it's not something that everyone's going to do, but I think at least you're going to get some information about it. You know, what's interesting is like, I don't think a lot of people realize like chemically your brain gets like the more decisions you make, the more stress, the more, it's not just discomfort, it's thinking. Like the more you use your brain, and that's the thing is like we only have so much, like we can only make so many decisions. You know, there's actually an interesting study, and I think it was with kids or maybe with adults. At any rate, they had a plate of fruit. No, well, they did. I've read both studies. They have a plate of fruit and they had a plate of cake or like fruit and veggies like clean. Then they had a plate of like cake and pastries and sugar. And the more, so they did, and then they put these people through tests and made them make more decisions, and they made, they were more tired, they were more stressed out compared to the people that were fresh. And the people that were fresh and alive and awake, they chose better food options. And the ones that were like mentally drained, they chose the pastries, which I think is always interesting. And one of the reasons I think we go to the pantry in the evening when it's like, oh, I don't have food prepared, I don't know what to make, I'm gonna go get some chips, crackers, pop, whatever it is from the pantry. Because our brain doesn't, we have in our system, we have something called so we have our lymphatic, but we also have our glymphatic. And our glymphatic system actually detoxes our brain while we sleep. So it clears it up and it gets us ready, fresh and alive and awake in the morning, I think, which, as you can see now.
But I think we really underestimate the power of sleep. Most people know like it's important, like sleep is important, but I think it's one of the things that just always gets pushed to the side, right? Like as not so, like we don't put it high on our priority list a lot of the times. Or we're too busy. Yeah. We hear that all the time. Oh, I'm just so busy. That's why we always say to get your workouts in the morning, bright and early, because throughout the day, then you can always like, I don't know, but like for me, like I can always come up with a bazillion excuses throughout the day about maybe why working out might not be a good idea. or it gets that lower and lower and lower on the priority list. But you wake up, work out, get it done, and not to think about it.
Yeah, that's what happens is we make so many decisions and we're tired and drained that by the end of the day, we're not like, let's get a workout in. You got to do those things before, like when you're alive and awake and alert, like, let's go. But then, of course, you have to look at those people that don't have great sleeping patterns or don't sleep well or don't have evening routines or morning routines. Because I feel like in that case, that's not going to help you, like trying to get your workout in the morning. Mm-hmm. It starts with the proper evening routine that gets to proper sleep habits and then morning routines.
So true.
So, you got to have those. This idea actually came from Zach and our Fit Fam as a little challenge that we're going to put together. So we'll do the challenge in the fitness family, but I wanted to talk about it with you guys as well, just for fun, because it's something that Dorothy and I have been doing for the last couple of years, experimenting. I've done a few different like 30-day challenges, 10-day challenges, 1 minute, 3 minutes, whatever it is. There's a lot of different ways that we'll talk about that you can do it. But
talk about the benefits first, because people, when we tell them about it, are often like, why would you do that? That sounds awful.
Yeah, well, there's tons of benefits to cold water therapy. And I feel like there's more benefits than we even know because so few people do it. And I do imagine there's not a ton of studies because
not many people do it.
Well, it's not just that not many people do it, but you also, like when you find research or when you go to research something, in most cases, you have to find something that people are going to do, right? So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to the masses. Don't get me wrong. You can find smaller studies of people doing all kinds of crazy things, but smaller studies around like cold water therapy, for example, is minimal because that individual doing the studies probably isn't going to make like mainstream news, because who's good, like this very small percentage of people are going to do it. Like, yeah, like that's great news, but I'm never going to take a cold shower.
Yeah.
Or we hear people like, I've tried it once.
I tried it once.
Never again. So when it comes to the benefits, we can start off with one of the things that stands out to me most, especially for those people in Alberta, is the ability for your body to heat itself. And I think this is extraordinary or profound in the ability for our bodies to heat itself as it used to.
Do you mean that in the same way as regulating its own temperature?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the ability for it to warm and cool. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay. Just want to make sure I was understanding.
Just want to clear that up.
Check for understanding there.
Minus points for interruption. I'm just kidding. Okay, so like especially in Alberta, you don't see it very much in LA, but in Alberta, for example, people are often cold, or I see like more people that don't have like circulation in their hands or feet. They're always cold. Doesn't matter what the temperature is. And I feel like that has a lot to do with how our body regulates its temperatures. And now, so let's say, for example, like in Alberta, when you were always putting on a sweater, for example, when you always put on extra socks, you crank the heat up. That, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that reduces the ability for our body to do what it's supposed to do. So when we work out, our body gets hot and we sweat, just for example. And then that sweat is a purpose for our sweat. Our sweat comes out cold in our body, so it cools our body. But then, I mean, you could look at something crazy, like an extreme example is antiperspirant. It's actually a chemical that you put under your arm so you don't perspire. It's insane to me to think that we actually do those things, because your body is supposed to perspire. That's how you release toxins. It has a lot to do with our lymphatic system as well. But in that regard, our body is supposed to sweat. It's supposed to cool itself. So when we're cold, our body is supposed to heat itself. When it's, when you go outside and it's a bit colder, it's easy in Alberta to put more layers on. I'm not saying you shouldn't. All I'm saying is that that's why we run into the issue of people when we just crank up the heat, or we put extra gloves or socks on, and our body doesn't have that mechanism to heat itself anymore. Or when you're extra hot, for example, your body has the ability to better cool itself. So if we look at something like cold water therapy, see, if you look at a very general example is when you hurt yourself, like an easy one is when you sprain your ankle. You sprain your ankle and they teach you to, like, you might be physio or your doctor, whoever it is, they do hot cold pools to increase circulation. So what that does is flush out the blood, like the bruising is pooling blood. So you want to flush that out, and then you want to bring, they also tell you to elevate it, right? So you want to bring that deoxygenated blood back to your heart and then flush it. So your blood is basically flushing that blood in and out and cleaning it. So if you look at cold water therapy and you put it in hot and cold, that increases circulation, because you bring the hot will bring all that blood to the area, and the cold will be and bring it back away. So you're always like bringing it back and forth, whether it's 30 seconds, 1 minute back and forth. And if you would look at, I don't know how interesting this is to you guys. I imagine you would just leave if it's not. But if you look at the ability to have a cold shower, most of our bodies are warm on a regular basis. Like, we're warm inside. And I'm not talking about like you wake up with a chill. I'm talking about if you're standing outside, it's freezing. In most cases, we have a home, we have a shelter, we have a heater, we have blankets. But so if your body's regularly warm, that's the circulation that you have. But if you do something, you step outside your comfort zone and you force, like a cold bath, for example, or a cold shower, and you force increased circulation, that's when we see more of these benefits that we're going to talk about today.
There's no doubt that cold water therapy is uncomfortable. But one of my favorite things that Drew always tells me is that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So if you want to see changes in your health, if you want to improve something, if you want to do something differently, then you have to expect and be okay with being uncomfortable until it gets a little bit more comfortable.
Then you change it up so it's uncomfortable again.
And then you change those. So that's just how it is with cold water therapy. It's going to be uncomfortable. So going in expecting to be uncomfortable and being okay with it being uncomfortable because of the health benefits is a mindset shift that you will have to choose to make if you want to experience the benefits. But one of the, personally, when Drew and I first started cold water therapy, I wasn't really too much on board. I was like, oh gosh,
Or at all.
another crazy thing that Drew just wants me to do. But some personal benefits that I have seen has been an increase in energy. So if you do it right in the morning, it like wakes you up. You got all this energy first thing in the morning. Also metabolism. I have a really super slow metabolism. I get so mad at Drew because Drew has a high running, fast. That's what it is. Drew has a naturally fast metabolism, and it's so interesting how we're so like our bodies are so different. I mean, female, male, that makes a lot of difference too, and how your body works, obviously. But I'm just rambling now. But anyway, I just think it's so interesting that like the cold water therapy has definitely helped speed up my metabolism. And in fact, in like probably like 7, 8 years ago, I did a couple fitness competitions, and that was something that we actually put into my, into my program was cold water therapy because it increases your metabolism and burns body fat. So I found that to be of a benefit for me. It also helps improve sleep. So if you're not a great sleeper, cold water therapy can help you get a more sound sleep as well. And more recently, and we're still trying to figure this out, and I haven't really shared this too much, but I've been having trouble with, what do you call them? Night sweats. It's so the strangest thing, but just probably the last 6 months or so, just waking up in like this pool of like sweat and having to like change and so hot and can't sleep.
Okay,
it's
I don't
just
even know if I need to know the graphics.
Well, anyway, super and terribly uncomfortable. But that's one of the things that we've been experimenting with, or where I've been experimenting with to help regulate the body temperature, is the cold water therapy to help with that. So I know a lot of women come to us with like hot flashes and like that are going through menopause. Cold water therapy can help with that.
You know what's interesting to me is that we'll talk about more benefits here, but there is unlimited benefits to cold water therapy. And like I said, we'll give you some more ideas or suggestions and examples. But if you take like a 3-minute shower or like a cold dip, for example, there's so many benefits. And I just feel like it's a bit bizarre to me to wrap my head around how you could have unlimited benefits by putting yourself in an uncomfortable position for, let's say, 30 seconds to 3 minutes. Let's just throw those numbers out there. And so many people are not willing to do that. Like just to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation for 3 minutes out of your day. Think about how many minutes you have in a day, and so few people will do that. So if you want to be, I suppose, a bit different and you want to see some results, then I think you need to put yourself in an uncomfortable position or situation. But the reward, like the risk and reward, it's the return on your investment is mind blowing compared to just not. So that's something to think about.
You know how we teach, and we always teach small progressive steps towards change. So with cold water therapy, it's no different. We wouldn't suggest hopping into a cold shower or a cold bath for 10 minutes. Start with 30 seconds and build like a minute, 2 minutes, and you can keep building from there once you get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. So I don't know what I started at, probably 30 seconds. Maybe 10 seconds. But we just have a timer. Like we time it on the bathroom counter. Yeah. And yeah, it's uncomfortable for sure.
It does get easier though. Like it gets easier without question if you put yourself in that situation. But I was doing some research not too long ago, maybe 2 months ago, and I heard that I was doing some collagen research, and I read that cold water therapy can actually help the collagen in your face.
Oh, cool.
So if you run cold water for 30 seconds on your face, like maybe that's how you end your shower, maybe that's how you start your shower, but that can help increase the elasticity in your face and get that collagen working and moving and grooving a little bit to help reduce wrinkles.
That's cool.
I thought that would be interesting for some people that are, like we don't look at, like we look at the holistic route. We don't look at, I don't want to put anyone down. There's a lot of I don't know what the word, synthetic ways to look younger. So if you look at something like cold water therapy, that could be something that you guys are interested in. You know what was interesting? So when I was in LA here, just this last trip, the water's cold. Everyone thinks it's like tropical or like Mexico or Belize or whatever in LA, but it's not. They have colder winter months and the water is freezing. So I would actually go to I would ride my bike to the ocean, and I would have shorts and a t-shirt and a hoodie, and then I'd have my towel wrapped around me on top. My hoodie was on, and it was a bit cold. It was a bit cold outside. And then I jumped in the ocean. It was freezing, and when you jump in, you lose your breath. It's like, I'm like trying to catch my breath. And then, so I tried to stay in there for 15 minutes, freezing. And all the surfers are in wetsuits, and you have some tourists, like the kids that are like, oh my gosh, ocean. But if you're around ocean regularly, or if you're a surfer, you have a wetsuit, it's freezing. So anyways, I would jump in there and I would be freezing. But then on my ride back, all I would have is my, what do you call these shorts? You don't call them board shorts. I call them swim trunks. You give me a hard time. What do you call them?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Swimming trunks. What do you call them?
A swimsuit.
For men?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. When I call they're like swimming trunks. I don't know what you call them. Dorothy always gives me a hard time. She's like, who wears swimming trunks anymore?
I think he's gotten confused. Got too much sleep. I don't remember making fun of you for calling them swimming trunks.
Yeah, you do. You also give me a hard time for calling my dress pants
slacks.
I don't know what the problem with that is.
I'm sorry if you call dress pants slacks, but I think it's so funny because that's what my grandma called them.
Maybe because that's what they're called.
And I never really heard anybody but my grandma call them slacks. So whenever Drew is talking about his dress pants that he probably wears once a year, maybe twice a year, he's like, have you seen my slacks? I'm like, that's a good story, Grandpa. Sorry, I don't mean to offend you if you call dress pants slacks, but that's just a little joke around here.
I can't stand like dress pants or dress clothes. They drive me bonkers.
So restricting, he says. I can't move.
You can't do anything. Like I'm in shorts and like a hoodie and sweats all day. So when you go and put me in restricting clothes, I'm so uncomfortable. So anyways, I call them slacks because I refer to them once a year. Twice. Dorothy always gives me a hard time. Same thing with my swimming trunk. Anyways, so what I was saying is after I jump in the ocean, before I get in there, it's cold out. It's a bit windy. The weather isn't great. So I jump in the ocean and it's freezing, but then I get through it. And on my way back, my circulation is so alive and my blood is flowing that my body doesn't need to heat itself. Or sorry, the clothing doesn't need to heat my body. My body's heating itself. So on the way back, I put my towel around my neck and I have my shorts on and I ride back and that's it. So I think that's just a quick example of how we're explaining that you can use clothing, you can use heat, other heat sources. But if you give your body the ability to heat itself through cold water therapy, then you don't have to use, we all have those friends that have like 25 blankets on or like big giant jackets. Of course, there's climatization and stuff. Like I was colder here than I was there. So there's other factors.
But reduces inflammation because this week in a couple of our lives, we've been talking about how to reduce pain. And the source of pain is inflammation, right? So a lot of people who have chronic pain, cold water therapy would actually be beneficial because if you can get your inflammation down and reduce your inflammation, then your pain will start to decrease as well. So, but it's usually something that most people won't even give a second thought to, right? Cold water therapy, no freaking way.
Well, it's the same thing with if you have an injury, for example, we talked about. So you could use hot, cold pools, or you could use just an ice pack. Like, everyone's here at the baseball diamond or whatever. You get an ice pack and you put it on your arm, your leg. But to reduce the inflammation, we'll consider putting your entire body in a colder state to reduce inflammation on a regular basis. So those people that have chronic issues, chronic pain, I suppose, not issues, like chronic joint pain in their joints, for example, lower back, we hear a lot about. You could do some cold water therapy and then you could have less pain.
Mm-hmm. Do you wash in a cold shower or do you just stand there and shiver? Just stand there and shiver.
Depends who you are. It's Dorothy, you stand there.
You stand there and shiver. So I actually transition a lot. When when we first started looking, and I always took super hot boiling showers and Drew would be like, oh my gosh, like it's
scorching
like
hot.
that's just what I liked. I like super hot showers. But since doing more cold water therapy, my normal temperature has decreased of showering has decreased quite a bit. So I'll do my showering things. I'll wash myself.
Okay. Move on.
And then I'll turn the timer on, like turn the water all the way cold and turn the timer on and stand there and wait until the timer dings.
Like this.
What do you do?
Well, there's different versions. So for me, at times, so I did that 30-day challenge where I did 3-minute minimum. It was funny when I first started out, it was like struggle to get to 3 minutes, and I would shower and I would like wash myself and like do a full shower in 3 minutes. I know people shower for 20 minutes. So they're like, what could you get done in 3 minutes? But I think like after that, I got everything done in 3 minutes. I'm like, what are people doing for 20 minutes in a shower? Like for me, it's a huge waste as environmentalists. Most people won't do this. So you're not alone. We're just trying to give you a different perspective and think outside the box. There's just tons and tons of health benefits to cold water therapy. The issue is that most people won't do it. Mm-hmm. And so there's what I was trying to say is that I did different versions. So I would do 3 minutes. So at one time I did 3 minutes of a full shower, and then that kind of progressed to around 5 minutes, and that was no hot water at all. And then right now this is my third day of doing a hot shower and then finishing off with 100% cold water. So there's different things you could do, and one of the things I want to mention before you jump in there is that it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to do it forever. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying you should turn your hot showers into cold for the rest of your life. That's not what we're saying. All we're saying is that you could give your body a little boost. So maybe you do a 10-day challenge, maybe it's a 30-day challenge, and you do that every 3 months, for example. It's just a different way to offer health benefits to your body. That's all.
I had a question for you, but now I don't remember what it was. Oh, I was going to say, is there like a recommended or suggested amount of time? Like I'm sure people who are super serious about cold water therapy do it for a certain amount of time.
Well, it really depends. So when I was in my playing days, I played a speed position and my legs were quite sore often. And it was important for me, like my legs were everything. So I would actually sit in a tub with, waist deep or whatever, nipples deep. And it was ice. Like it was I would go to next to the sport physio rooms. Yeah. Sports therapy room, whatever. And then there was a tub next to it, and they would use that for therapy. And I would fill that with cold water or whatever, ice. And I would sit in that for 10 to 15 minutes after practice or training sessions. So,
and you should mention that you were one of the least injured players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, later on in my career, I played 3 full seasons back to back with no breaks, without one injury besides my broken hand, which I played through and healed very quickly from. But that I swear by that, like that saved my legs. That probably saved my career at that time. Was sitting in a cold tub and like going through that pain, and players would come in, they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy." And I'm like, and I'd be sitting there shivering, like it was uncomfortable. But that was what I was willing to do to compete at that level.
Those people that thought you were crazy were probably sent home. Yeah, because they were injured.
Yeah, well,
or had to spend time off the field.
Yeah. Huh? So I guess what I'm saying to answer that question is 10 to 15 minutes could be recommended, but that's extreme. Like that's high level athletics you could look at. If you're looking at regular everyday people like we are, I think 3 minutes is great. But it's the same thing as we talk about, like when we talk about hydration. We're doing a hydration challenge, Fit Fam soon.
Yeah.
If you talk about hydration, we say you should have 2 to 3 liters a day, and someone's having a cup like this is your water for the day, and then we say drink 3 liters. It's not going to happen.
No.
So if you have never tried cold water therapy, try 10 seconds. See what it's like. The problem is the problem is most people try something one time and they're like, not for me. But to get some benefits, you're going to have to do it for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm. One of the recipes for cold water therapy was to fill your tub up and then put 3 bags of ice in there and let it melt to like 80%. I'm like, that is some serious cold water therapy right there.
I'm going to try that actually.
Oh gosh, I knew it.
I'm going to try that. I always like to try new things and experiment, but I'm going to sit in an ice tub. I just have a bit of a hard time with the plastic bags and then the one-use thing. Yeah. And they're not expensive. We don't like plastic, and then one use and that's it. It seems a bit of a wasteful, but I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. I do want to try that though. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is that when I was doing like 3-minute shower, like 3-minute cold showers, that you could get through. Well, like I used to brush my teeth. Like I do brush my teeth. It's especially if I'm doing like charcoal or if I'm doing turmeric brushing, I'll brush in the teeth in the shower, which takes a bit longer. But if you do like you brush in the bath, like in the sink, and you turn the water off. You don't let the water run while you're brushing your teeth. It drives me nuts. But so that's the one way to save water. But also you can wash yourself in 3 to 5 minutes without much of a problem. And then I feel like people won't shower unless it's like 10, 15, 20 minutes. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that for environmental purposes, there's also a large benefit as well. So you're not sitting there showering forever or even bath. Like we bath and we like to recommend taking baths as well. So I actually think that's a nice balance. If you take your detoxing bath for, let's say 3 times a week and you fill up the bathtub, that's a lot of water to use or waste if you will. But then if you have 3-minute showers, kind of balances it out.
I guess so.
So there's a couple of resources, the Iceman, Wim Hoffman or something like that. So he does a bunch of work around cold water therapy. So if you want more resources, you can just look up the Iceman and I'm sure he'll pop up. Like different forms of breathing exercises, and especially in cold water. That's pretty cool. You can look at Anthony Robbins, Winhoff, or is it Wim? Zach says Win. Oh, Wim Hof. Yeah, it's Wim Hoffman, I think.
W-I-M and then second name H-O-F. Wim Hof.
Okay, so he's called the Iceman. He does all kinds of crazy stuff in cold weather temperatures, in ice water.
Oh yeah, Zach guy. That's the right spell.
And also, and then includes that with breathing exercise, like how to breathe properly and all the benefits to breathing. So that could be of interest if you guys want more resources.
Oh, I didn't know about this guy. Does he have a documentary? Is that a documentary?
I don't know.
Gonna have to check that out.
And then also Tim Ferriss actually, he wrote a bit about it in the 4-Hour Body.
That's not the name of the book.
Yes.
Okay.
4-Hour Body. He also has one called the 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh, he
also has one called the 4-Hour Show. Okay, so he wrote about it a little bit and did some studies. Did some documented studies around the benefits of cold water therapy. And then you could look at someone like Anthony Robbins, who does a cold water plunge every morning. He's got like a giant mansion, and then he's built like a little cold tub in the ground that he jumps in every morning. And then he talks about
what a life of luxury.
And he talks about like the state, like changing your state of mind and being. For me, I feel like it's empowering. Like you do something that you don't like. I don't really want to do it. I just know there's benefits of it. So you do something you don't really want to do, and you get through.
I did that.
Yeah, and you're like you especially do in the morning. You feel alive and awake and rejuvenated, and you get some like cold water splashed in your face. You just automatically like awake. I think
kind of like running a marathon.
That wakes you up.
No, you're like you do something that you don't really want to do, but you feel good about it. There is actually like the different pools, like going from hot to warm to cold. Yeah, there's benefits in that cycle too.
Therapeutic.
Yeah.
We did that at Kananaskis.
Kananaskis, yeah.
Been there a couple times.
They
it's
have
awesome.
the wellness pools there. I don't know what you call them. Nordic spa is what it's called. But they have all the wellness pools. So you can go from a hot pool to a warm pool to a cold pool. I was really proud of myself the last time we did it because I did very well.
You did. You know what's crazy? It's a mind thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's your mind. It's not that bad. And I was like trying to tell Dorothy it's not that bad. And she's like, no, it's freezing. But then once you do it and you get into it, you actually went back 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it felt really good actually. Yeah.
And like we have to go back to the mindset of people. Like if you could wrap your head around being on, like if you're uncomfortable for 30 seconds, for 3 minutes, let's say, your body could reap so many benefits. But it's just that mindset of people being like, no, that's not for me. I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks so much for spending your time with us.
Yes, that was
fun hanging out with you guys.
Thanks for joining us for some laughs.
Yeah.
I think we could all use some laughs these days.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys.
True Form Life.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is trueformlife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at trueformlife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with Trueform Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.